Welcome into another edition of Prep Picks. Heather Williams alongside Steve Wilmot of ESPN Tri-Cities, TriCitiesSports.com. Well, a good week for both of us, which means you're still in first place, which is a bad week for me. But anyway, interesting group of games we have going on as we kind of get into conference play, district play for some of these teams. We'll start with a big one in Region 1D, or Region 1D for Virginia side, which is Chilhowie at Honaker. Both teams coming off big wins.
Yeah. Second half of the season. Where did the first half go?
Right.
We just got started, right? But yeah. Chilhowie last week, that big game against Northwood, they put that thing to bed in a hurry. That defense for Chilhowie and its 4 wins, only allowing 7 points, did allow 28 to Eastside. Now they go and take on a Honaker team that in its first 3 games allowed 139 points to teams that are 13-1 overall. And now kind of finding its footing a little bit, especially offensively with the freshman quarterback Parker Lowe throwing for 7 touchdowns last week against Grundy. But he will see a much different defense this week in the Warriors. I think defense travels in this one, and so I'll take Chilhowie.
I think it's really interesting because I think you have Chilhowie and Honaker kind of battling for the same real estate in Region 1D, which is, right the next tier below. I think Rye Cove and Eastside are still the class of that division, but I think they're right there battling against it. So this could go a long way as far as like playoff seeding goes in home field in the playoffs in the opening round. I agree with you. I think Chilhowie, experience-wise, is just a little bit ahead. I think their defense is just a tad bit ahead. We all know Honaker could score. They've been able to score for a long time. They can put up points, but I just think that defense at Chilhowie is going to be a little bit better. So I'm with you. I'm going to take the Warriors as well. Gosh, this might be the best game in the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia this week. Gate City at Union. I don't think any of us saw what Gate City's done this year coming, but here we are. This could be the Mountain Seven.
You send me the slate of games early in the week, and so we can start preparing to discuss the winners and the losers in this. And I knew this one was coming. So I thought about it all weekend. I thought about it all week. I've gone back and forth all week. And I'm still kind of going back and forth. This could be a great football game at Bullitt Park. Get there now. Go now if you're going. You've got about 24 hours or so to get there, so you might as well head there now. But this Gate City team, you look at what it's done. Everybody knows what it's done offensively, okay? But defensively, a little bit maybe underrated. Did allow 28 points against Richland in the opener. I think some of that came late. Dobyns-Bennett got 28 points. There was a special teams play, a couple of short fields. And then the last 3 weeks, 13 points. Are 17, 13, and 6. So the defense for Gate City playing equally as well as the offense, but they're going up against a Union offense that's averaging well up in the 40s, 49 points or something, points a game. I really, really, really want to pick Gate City in this one. They have been so good to me all year long. But I got to go with Union. I think it's going to be a great game. I think Union just will have a little bit more offensively than Gate City has a little bit more dynamic on the offensive side of the football. It's going to be a tremendous game. I got to pick somebody, so I'm going to go with the Bears.
I think this game is in Gate City at Legion Field. It's even harder pick, but I think, Bullitt Park is such a tough place to play. And really good teams have come in there and come out scratching their heads trying to figure out, what that ghost was that came up and tripped them on the 5-yard line running for a touchdown. So I think these teams are incredibly evenly matched. I'm so impressed with what Gate City's done. Gate City, you'll probably be thanking me because my picks have not been that great. So by me picking Union, it might actually be a good omen for you, but I'm going to go with Steve. I'm also going to pick Union. Interesting cross-state battle between two teams I think most people thought were going to give us a little bit more this year. Both of them hovering right around 500, and that's Johnson County at Abingdon.
And you love these cross-state games.
I do. They're my favorites.
But you look at Abingdon, they won the first 2 games out of the chute, and we thought, okay, this is the Abingdon team we thought and we would expect. And now 3 straight losses and struggling defensively, stopping the pass. Tennessee out with a big week last week. Does Johnson County have enough of an aerial attack to attack that pass defense for Abingdon? We thought Johnson County was going to be strong on the run, started out that way. It's kind of declined a little bit. Johnson County's won 3 games, but the opposition is like 3-11, I think, and the total differential has only been 11 points. So I think Abingdon this week gets back closer to what we thought we would see from the Falcons. I'll take Abingdon in this one, but this is a case of you don't know what you're going to get here.
Yeah, you really don't, because I don't think either school knows exactly what they are yet. Abingdon, I think has a lot of talent, has a lot of playmakers on their team. Johnson County, I think, has some really good running backs and can throw the ball around a little bit. But both of them have moments where they look like they don't know, they can't get out of their own way. So I am also going to go with you. I'm going to pick Abingdon, but I wouldn't be the least surprised if Johnson County came across the state line and left with a win. This is a big one in Class 6A, Region 1. I very rarely do teams out of the area. But based on what happened last week with Jefferson County beating Science Hill, this game becomes massive because if Dobyns-Bennett can win this game, they're really in the driver's seat for Region 1 6A.
Well, Dobyns-Bennett, true, would still have Science Hill late in the year. Jefferson County wins. They're the ones really in the driver's seat because they would have had wins over DB and Science Hill in back-to-back weeks. DB, after this week, will have 3/4 of its region schedule completed. To your point, that would be 3-0 with one to play. So Science Hill last week against Jefferson County, big injury on Wednesday practice, really hurt them. A two-way starter on the defensive line and offensive line went down. Jefferson County took advantage of that. Science Hill couldn't get anything going offensively against that Jefferson County defense. And Dobyns-Bennett's offense, is they're still trying to figure it out. I mean, Coach Christian has tried 10 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, just trying to find that offensive identity. But what the Indians have done really, really well is create turnovers and play great special teams. Cooper McLean, the kickoff guy, kicked off a bunch at West Ridge last week, and West Ridge's best field position was when it went in the end zone. If it didn't go in the end zone and they tried to return it from the 1, they were behind the 20. Also, 2 big returns for Xavier Goodwin. I think that's the difference here for Dobyns-Bennett. I think they get the win, but it's special teams, it's kicking game, and it's creating a couple of critical turnovers. They got 5 last week against West Ridge. You can't count on that again. But I think that's what plays into Dobyns-Bennett's favor, and they win this one. Now, they still have to play Science Hill.
Right.
Okay, later in the year. I think at the end of the year that this whole tiebreaker thing in Region 1 6A, we could get really, really deep in the weeds because the way it's all said and done if you look at these schedules. But that requires a Dobyns-Bennett win on Friday night.
I honestly don't know what to think of this game because I really kind of thought this was going to be Science Hill's year in Region 1 6A. The talent, just the way they came out of the gate. And last week against not just the fact that they lost to Jefferson County, but the way they lost to Jefferson County, injuries or not, you feel like a 6A team should be deep enough to handle one big injury, even if it is a huge injury. So I don't know. I really I'm going to pick Dobyns-Bennett because they're a local team, and unless something is just really obvious, I'm always going to go with the local team. But I don't know. Jeff County has me wondering they might be better than any of us thought they were going to be going into the year. Speaking of good matchups, region play, big games, this could be for a first round bye when it's all said and done, depending on how this region shakes out. David Crockett at Tennessee High in Region 1 5A.
First round home playoff.
I mean,
First
yeah,
round
that's what I mean.
Exactly, yes. Because David Crockett, I think they're 1-1. They've beaten, are they 1-1 in the league? Anyway, Tennessee High, yes, Tennessee High unbeaten. They're looking at a potential showdown with Sevier County down the line, but they got some business to take care of. We thought Tennessee High would struggle with that schedule out of the gate. They have. But then they put together 3 straight wins. They found a lot of things offensively. Crockett does have the 2 wins over Morristown. Those 2 teams, no offense, aren't very good. I think they're 2-9 combined, and one of the wins was because they had to play each other last week. So Crockett's schedule, I don't know. Some of the wins they have against some teams that also aren't very good. I just think Tennessee High is playing too well right now. They're on a roll. They figured it out. And I like Tennessee pretty handily in this one.
I like this game only because it's at Tennessee High. I actually think these 2 teams are probably a lot more similar than they are different in their construction. I think they've beaten the teams they need to beat. They've lost to the teams that were clearly better than them. So I'm not sure that we know definitively, other than look at the paper and that kind of stuff. But I learned a long time ago the paper doesn't mean nothing when until you line up on the field. I'm going with the home team by like this much. I actually think this is going to be maybe one of the better games of the week. That's why I put it on there. I know you think Tennessee High is probably a lot better than Crockett, but we'll see. We'll see what goes down in this one. Our Friday night rivals game this week takes us to Greeneville. Great matchup between Cherokee and Greeneville. we talked about this several times with Cherokee. They're inching closer
Yes.
to the big two. Are they there yet?
We've kind of seen that with both Cherokee and Volunteer in these matchups with Greeneville and with Elizabethton.
Mhm.
We've seen that gap shrink this year. Will it shrink again this week against Greeneville that's coming off the game of the year
Yeah.
last week at Sevier County? I mean, Greeneville gave up a blocked field goal for a touchdown and then was that far away from the goal line and winning that game
I
at
couldn't
Sevier County.
believe they lost that game. I literally turned away from 1 second and I was like, wait, what happened?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So how will I think Green Devils will respond, and they've kind of got a point to prove. I think Cherokee, Jaden Weston, we've talked about him already over 1,000 yards rushing on the year.
Week 6.
Week 6. How much yardage can he gain against that Green Devil defense? I think Greenville, we still think the margin is shrinking. I think this margin will be greater than the early ones we've seen just because Greenville's kind of a little bit upset about how that game played out last
Yeah,
week.
the worst thing that happened to Cherokee is the way that game went last week, because you will have a very angry Greenville team, and Cherokee's next on the schedule. This game is in 2 weeks. It might be a very close football game, but sadly, I agree. Greenville is the team that is only limited by their own mistakes and their own talent. You saw that last week. They were this close to scoring, and they are the ones that stop themselves. So I think this is a week where they clean a lot of that up, because I think, that was a game they wanted, they needed to get, and they didn't get it. So I think that Greenville wins this game. I think Cherokee is probably the third team in that region. Volunteers closed the gap significantly, but I don't think I think they're closer to Elizabethton than they are to Greenville at this point. All right. What you want to talk about? What are the news and notes, the things we want to clean up?
There's just so many great individual performances last week. I know you guys had a hard time picking your player of the week last week. I think Michael Reeves for Lebanon had a huge game, throwing the football over 400 yards. I think Jeb Stewart for Patrick Henry, is that correct? 500 all-purpose yards almost, something like that. We talked about the quarterback from Honaker, what he did with 7 touchdown passes. Hey, congratulations to Drew Fleming and Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
Stopping that long losing streak. I think he had 33 carries for like 236 yards, all 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, a bunch of tackles. So you had a lot to sift stuff through this week. So I thought that was great. I guess the concerning thing for me was I think Bland had to stop playing at halftime last week. They were down to 12 players against Eastside. I think there's a lot of schools around here, numbers-wise, that are really suffering. That's a big concern. And I've heard whispers out there about maybe some other schools that might have to do some of the same. So I hate to hear that. We need football numbers to go up. That's concerning when these schools, and some schools have already forfeited games, don't have enough numbers. That's tough to hear for somebody that loves high school football like us.
Well, when I lived in Kansas, this was a big issue, because I think a lot of rural areas, people are moving to the city. Rural areas are shrinking quite a bit. Not when I said the city, I mean, Grundy as opposed to Council, or, but the rural areas are really starting to shrink. And I think that it might behoove, I think Virginia now has 8-man football, correct?
Yes.
It might, I know that it sounds crazy, but I really enjoy covering 8-man football, and Kansas actually has 6-man football as well. Wow. I think for some of these small schools, it's something that they really need to consider. It allows you to play football and play at a competitive level, right? I mean, teams that have 12 players, that's not a competitive 11-man. It's not even a competitive 8-man, but 6-man. Now you've got, 2 teams, right? You can scrimmage against each other and all that kind of stuff. It allows these kids to have meaningful high school football experiences where they can win state championships, go to playoffs, play against teams that are their size and like mine. And I think both sides of the state line, because you look also at Tennessee, a school like Honaker that's struggling mightily with players. It might be time, to swallow the pride a little bit and consider 8- and 6-man football. I'll tell you, I really enjoyed covering 8-man. I actually begged for 8-man games over, because in Kansas, it was 80-yard fields. They were narrower. Scores were like 62-45. I mean, it was nonstop action. Yes, a nonstop action, which is way better than watching a team with 13 kids struggle to get beat 42-0. Like, that's not fun.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's probably
it's certainly an option. just our
Yeah.
opinion.
But I love that you brought that up because
Yeah.
I really enjoyed covering 8 and 6 man football in Kansas. I thought it was great, great fun. All right, if you want more high school sports, make sure you follow this guy's website. That's tricitysports.com and join me Friday 11:15 for Friday Night Huddle.